included the scheduling. Fancy following, right? That was just amazing. So, how to successfully create an immersive experience with compelling content in VR for Vive in just over 6 weeks. Chapter 1, in the beginning. So, my VR story starts in November last year at the Harper in Reykjavik with Bjork's album, Vol Nikura. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. I'd been sick that day and I actually had thought about staying in at home. But by the end of being with Bjork in Vive, I felt great. My temperature had gone, my body didn't ache. And VR did something that day that paracetamol couldn't do. It changed how I physically and mentally felt. And this is the first time in my life that I'd had such an immersive state as a visual artist. I've actually sought out many immersive experiences. So when I got back to Belfast, I started phoning around companies working in VR, and there was one name that kept coming up, Kainos. So that led to a coffee, which led to RETNE being showcased in South by Southwest in March. So on the screen, you will see a gameplay of RETNE. It's on silent, but it's just to give you an idea of what it's about. Chapter 2, what happened between that coffee and March? Well, quite a lot in a very short space of time. I had about 32 different storyboard ideas, which I shared with Luke. He took these back to his devs who are all here today, and I would encourage you to talk to them too. We've got Andy Taylor, Aaron Meehan, and Liam Ferris in the room. 2 of them are sitting here. I don't know where Liam is. And quickly came up with a list of 3 things in terms of the ideas. Yes, tricky and very tricky. So anything tricky or very tricky was out immediately. And this approach highlighted the collaborative aspect of RETNE from the start, and not to get too precious about ideas. So the engineering feedback was absolutely critical because all this work helped us focus on the storyline as RETNE quickly developed. We all knew that we had an incredibly short time frame, so the questions we kept at the forefront all the way through the project were, how do we want the user to feel? What can we do really well in a very short space of time? What will make the VR experience bad? What are we limited by? And what makes VR compelling? And the 3 things in terms of that last question: 1, creative content that sparks your imagination. 2, fully developed graphics and rendering that are executed with finesse. And thirdly, powerful storytelling that leaves participants wanting more. And how do you do that? Well, we did that by creating this character, Little Mo, short for Little Monster. And he was voiced by actor Michael Smiley. And essentially, as the user, you in the VR, the character Little Mo is doing what he's doing because of you. So he's creating that empathetic connection. Chapter 3, just when you think your life could not get any busier. So the devs and I met weekly, they engineered, tested, and then I came in and play tested and fed back again. We realized early on also that we would need funding for animation, audio, voiceovers, studio hire, and my time. I had basically given over my life to this project. So I met with an iScreen and in December established a new company called VRNI Limited and submitted a funding application. We heard on the 19th of January of this year that we were successful. And that gave us just over 6 weeks to complete RETNE in time for South by Southwest. The devs moved to NTS to work with Chris Kelly, a BAFTA award-winning animation company. And our spatial audio was designed by David Baxter, and we were also able to employ a trainee, Niall Doherty. And that's been really important to me, that we're able to bring in somebody at an early point in their career. We remote recorded Little Mo's dialogue with Michael Smiley in London on the 6th of Feb. That was really early on in the process, so we had to record and anticipate any possible dialogue that we were going to need and anticipate any technical challenges. So chapter 4, what makes RETNE successful? There was a real sense of common purpose through this process. The key partners were Kainos, iScreen, InvestNI, Digital Catapult, NTS, and David Baxter. And RETNE worked because we had motivated and a highly skilled team with industry-relevant experience who were completely committed to doing absolutely everything necessary to deliver this product. And it's really as simple as that in a nutshell. But the other factors that did help were that we had a very clear deadline, which as a creative is always very good, and that helps you focus your mind, energy, and resources. Now, being in Northern Ireland, I think, was also critical to our success, because where the adage, small is beautiful, as coined by the economist Schumacher, rang true, we quickly connected with the right people and the companies to make RETNE work. There was minimal noise and disruption and maximum efficiency. And central to all of this were our early discussions in terms of clearly identifying the risk and success factors. There was also a sense of trusting to the process. I did feel a bit like Eliza Doolittle at times, of Pygmalion and My Fair Lady. But this is one of those moments in life when you get presented with an incredible opportunity and you just grab it with both arms. There was learning for everyone along the way. And at the end of the process, we've proved that we can create original, unique, and compelling content that makes the best use of VR technology. And that's quite a powerful story for Northern Ireland Incorporated. So, Chapter 5, what is RETNE? You've been watching the gameplay, which has been great because you've not been looking at me. And in RETNE, the user is a tourist who travels through VR land. They visit magical attractions in the new world, and you're accompanied by your quirky tour guide, Little Mo. It's playful, it's interactive, and it engages the user with humor and sensory triggers. And the user has to perform quests in RETNE to reveal hidden secrets and special effects. So you may have already guessed that RETNE is the mirror image of Enter. And in this story, you enter through a mirror, and when you return to that mirror, having completed your journey, the mirror reads RETNE. So much of the RETNE narrative is a metaphor for the concept of VR. It's the mirroring of the real world to create new and exciting environments and possibilities. The journeys that you can go on and the tasks that you must complete to further that journey. And most appropriately at the heart of RETNE is a quote from the philosopher Aristotle. And this is the key lesson. Creativity and technical capability have to work hand in hand. They rely on each other completely. Neither can work on its own. And to quote, the whole is greater than the sum of all its parts. So, Chapter 6, nice trip to the States. Now back to the day job. In Chapter 4, I talked about how RETNE proves that Northern Ireland can create original, compelling, and unique content that makes the best use of VR technology. Well, this needs to be applied in education, marketing, music, training, entertainment, health. So where do we go from here? We've started the process to get RETNE on Steam, but more broadly, the obvious answer is to enable this model that works so well to be replicated again. But how do you do this? How do we create a VR nurturing environment in Northern Ireland that supports the creatives and the techies and doesn't suck the very soul out of you when you're trying to get a project realized? Firstly, a clear understanding, I guess, of where VR is at. It's the Wild West. That came through very clearly at South by Southwest. Content is everything, and all the big companies are pouring money into nurturing the VR ecosystem in a hope of a return on the investment on the projected $1 trillion market. We need a high-level commitment with clear funding, minimal bureaucracy, and a clear will to commit to the process. There was so much learning for everyone from making RETNE, and that learning should continue to be shared as we're doing here, so that RETNE contributes to Northern Ireland's not just VR, but our AR and our MR ecosystem. Chapter X, the Final Frontier. Final Frontier was spoken at the beginning of many Star Trek TV episodes, and to quote, space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise, its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where, I'm going to change this to, human has gone before. And that's how I see what I see with VR at the minute. Some people rightly ask, is VR a gimmick? If it disappeared right here, right now, who would really care? Well, I would. Using high-end VR for the first time, it reminded me of a handful of other first-time techie moments in my life. I was both amazed by what I was feeling at that moment, but also amazed at the thought of what I could be experiencing in, 2, 3, 5, 10 years' time. I haven't even mentioned healthcare, which is one of the biggest adopters of VR and encompasses surgery simulation, phobia treatment, pain management, robotic surgery, and skills training. future is just so exciting with all the possibilities that VR, AR, and MR present, with Microsoft HoloLens, Magic Leap, and continued improvements in haptic technology. And I really believe that Northern Ireland can be right in the midst of all of this. VR, AR, MR will change how we all live. And I leave you with this quote from Arthur C. Clarke, who once wrote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Thank you.